Don't get caught in the weeds. The weeds are just 10% or less of your journey. Hello everyone, semi-retired Bob here. I talk about the carnivore diet, all things related to the carnivore diet, and miscellaneous odds and ends. Today we're going to talk about not getting caught in the weeds, the 90% versus the 10%, and we're also going to continue our discussion on some of the common objections from friends and family. I don't like to call them arguments because we don't actually get in arguments with our friends and family, right? We just have discussions. So we're going to get into all of that. For those of you new to the channel, welcome. I'm glad you're here. What you're doing here is you're watching me walk. I couldn't do this 18 and a half months ago. I could barely stand for 2 to 2.5 minutes. Now I'm out here walking every day, plus doing lots of other stuff. I have lots of videos on my channel. You can go see for yourself about my whole story. But the primary purpose of this channel is to show you that it's never too late to change your life. I'm 60 years old, and I'm doing things now that I couldn't do when I was 40. So help me spread the word. Go ahead and hit that like and the subscribe button. They're both absolutely free. And any interaction with the channel helps the channel. And if you get a moment, why don't you drop down in the comments and say, "Hi, Bob." All of that helps get the word out that it's never too late to change your life. For those of you returning to the channel, welcome back. I'm glad you're here as well. But let's get on into this thing. The first thing I want to talk about is one of the common discussions that happens with family. And we've already talked about vitamin C, and we've already talked about fiber. Today, we're going to talk about vitamin A. Because this is a common one. If you ask any of your friends or family, what's the most vitamin A rich food there is out there? They're going to say something like carrots, or kale, or spinach, or any of the other things. They're not going to say meat and eggs. Well, the reality, there's some people working up there, so we'll go down the other way now. The reality is that all of those foods they mention don't actually have any vitamin A in them. They have beta-carotenoids. We've all heard of beta-carotene. But there's a whole list of beta-carotenoids that can be converted to vitamin A. And that's what you find in carrots and kale and spinach and all of those other vegetables. Now, we talk quite a bit on this channel about a normal distribution curve. And if you're in the normal distribution curve of converting beta-carotenoids to vitamin A, you're probably going to be okay. But if you're on the lower end of that bell curve, or one of those people that doesn't convert very well at all, you're going to have problems. You're going to end up with a vitamin A deficiency. Now, some people worry about vitamin A toxicity. And as far as I'm aware of, the only case of documented vitamin A toxicity was in a guy some years ago that ate a polar bear's liver and got vitamin A toxicity from it. So there aren't really a lot of cases of vitamin A toxicity out there to look at. And we're primarily talking about the discussions and arguments that we have with friends that say, they say, "Oh, you got to eat your carrots, you're going to lose your eyesight. Carrots are good for eyesight." How many times did we hear that growing up as a kid? Well, vitamin A, retinol, is found in meat and eggs. It's not found in vegetables, and it's certainly not found in carrots. What we have to do is convert the carrots into actual vitamin A. So that's another little tool in your belt for when questions come up from family members about what you're doing and how is this going to be sustainable for you. Now let's talk about not getting caught in the weeds. I don't mention this enough, but most of what we talk about on this channel and most of the carnivore channels at this point, unless they're just getting started, is the 10% stuff. Protein sparing modified fasting, high fat versus low fat or lesser fat, high protein versus moderate protein. Do you need to do a little carb cycling? I don't think you do, by the way. All of these little nuances and adjustments that we make to our diet, remember, those are 10% problems. Don't get so focused on the 10% problems, or even some of them are 5% problems, but don't get so focused on those that you lose sight of the 90%. Because as I've said many times on this channel, but we're covering it again today because we always have new viewers, eat the meat, add the salt, drink the water. That will get you 90% of the way to where you want to go. It really is just that simple. Now for the final 10%, because I've been in the final 10% for 6+ months now. I'm getting stronger with all the exercises I'm doing, and we're going to talk a little more about exercises tomorrow. But the 10% problems, if you spend all your time concentrating on those, you're going to lose sight of the 90%, which is just eat the meat, add the salt, and drink the water. It doesn't matter how much fat versus protein you're getting to start with. If you're eating a good fatty cut of meat, or 80-20 ground beef, or chicken thighs with the skin on, or whatever it is you're eating, you're probably going to get enough of a fat to protein ratio to get you 90% of where you want to go. Because let's face it, if we're a little light on the fat early on, most of us still have plenty of stored body fat to fall back on. But don't get so wrapped up in trying to figure out exactly how much protein and exactly how much fat, and do I need to add this much salt or that much salt. Just salt to taste on whatever meat you're eating, and drink water. Make sure you're getting enough water. Like I said, all that will get you 90% of where you want to go. So don't get caught in the weeds. Don't get caught out there, So let's say you're out there tracking a deer, because it's deer season, and you see a squirrel that gets your attention. Well, if you spend your time concentrating on the squirrel, you may end up having a light snack of a squirrel for lunch instead of a deer. So keep your focus on the important stuff and worry about the other periphery things when it's time to worry about them, because it's not time to get caught in the weeds until it's time to go in the weeds. That's what I've got for you today. Hopefully you enjoyed this quick little video. Don't forget, get out there, be 1% better. Today, tomorrow, every day. Have a great day, folks. I will see you in the next one.